Hi witches! So today I wanted to talk about a really cool concept within witchcraft, and that is practicing at sacred wells. So I love talking about like the different types of witches, and one of the types of witches that I have spoken about in the past are water witches. And we've always talked about water witches being associated with different bodies of water, so like lakes, oceans, creeks, streams. And I think in the last couple of videos that I have talked about water witchcraft, or I know at least in the past, I did mention witches who work around wells and fresh water and springs and stuff like that. So I wanted to touch a little bit on that today, because Beltane is seen as kind of a time, and I still kind of consider this around Beltane time. I often celebrate holidays for multiple days on end or during about a week, just to, you know, really encapsulate and really hang on to that moment. It just makes me really happy. So I thought I would continue the conversation today talking about sacred wells. We don't see a whole lot of these kind of blessed or holy sites here in the United States. However, over in England, especially in like Britain and Ireland and Scotland, there are these ancient sites that are built and have been revered for literally thousands of years, starting with the ancient people who lived there first, then being co-opted by the Romans, and then eventually the Christians who came there. And now we've kind of come back full circle, and these wells have become not only a place of historical significance because of the you know, how long and how well preserved these places are, which is actually really cool, but also because once again in religious significance we see this kind of resurgence and this revival of neo-paganism, and a focus on the importance of remembering the people from the past, or, you know, reviving these old traditions and really connecting back to our heritage. So I really wanted to talk about this specifically today because it is, you know, Beltane is kind of this time where people go and travel to these wells to seek healing, to grant, or to ask for, you know, good luck, to have wishes granted, and to leave offerings. So that's really what we see being done on Beltane. I know there's a very high importance placed upon like bonfires and that element of fire, which absolutely, but also there is kind of this this importance on the sacred well. And we see a lot of this, I think, in Celtic paganism. I know, and what specifically springs to mind is Caradwen. Sometimes her cauldron, I've seen it, you know, described as a well, her well of knowledge, her font of knowledge. So that is just something that's always the first one that comes to mind, especially when we're talking about Welsh witchcraft. I'm so sorry, that was a tongue twister for me. I do see a lot of importance placed on this element of water, which I think is awesome as well, and something that I'm kind of like looking into as I connect back with the Morrigan and kind of connect back to the roots of my practice. So as with a lot of Celtic practices, it's really hard to say definitively what happened in the past because a lot of the information that we have was passed down by oral tradition and then written down by Christian monks in like the Middle Ages. So it's kind of hard to say for sure, this is what happened, this is why this was used, and this is like the time that it happened. We can kind of do that with like the Greeks and the Romans because a lot of their stuff was written down and actually really well preserved. But with, you know, Celtic stuff, it's a little bit more difficult. However, it is generally accepted that these wells were seen as places of healing, as places of magic. They were seen as kind of liminal spaces or spaces in between worlds. And it was a place that was sacred to the Fae, or the fair folk, the invisible people who lived there, the spirits of the land, right? So then as the Romans came in, they saw these sites and kind of incorporated them into their own practices. In fact, some of them even synchronized, whatever, some of the existing deities of like Irish people or British people, like Britannic, I guess, lots of things. Anyways, they syncretized them into their own religion. So you see like this figure of Minerva and this like mix between Minerva and another existing deity depicted at a sacred well in Ireland, which I think is really cool. And following that, when Christianity kind of like rose in popularity, they also saw these wells as being kind of like this holy site because of the healing properties of the water. Now, being in the 21st century, we can like look at the water, scan it, and like test the molecules and stuff. And we understand that people were being healed, but it's because of like the minerals and all of those really good, you know, well, minerals in the water, those good chemicals, I guess. But because of that, people were being healed from their ailments at the time because of this, you know, blessed or holy water. It was super common back in the day to leave offerings such as herbs, stones. People would sing songs or chant by the well. You might see people tying pieces of cloth or burying pieces of cloth, soaking this cloth in the water in order to heal someone sick. So there's a lot of folk practices centering the well. And similarly to the hearth, the well was a place that was very, very important and central to ancient people's lives. I mean, you had to have a fresh source of water in order to survive, and oftentimes the water was pretty gross and full of bacteria. So to have this source readily available, to have this like healing kind of mystical place where, you know, the veil is thin, there might be good spirits there. It is a well, a font of this healing energy, this healing magic, this thing that keeps human beings alive. Of course, people are going to kind of revere this and see this as a sacred place. Now, as modern pagans, there are still wells that are preserved that we can visit today. Brigid's Well in County Kildare, Ireland, the Chalice Well and White Spring in Glastonbury, as well as Coventina's Well on Hadrian's Wall. Now, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about water witchcraft, I have to absolutely recommend Water Witchcraft, actually the book, by Anwen Avalon. I read it and I really liked it, and that's where a lot of my information about working with wells and witches working with wells and sacred wells and all of this information comes from. So definitely check it out. It's very informative and really well written, and like not too dense that I couldn't understand it, so that means that it's probably very digestible for the rest of the population. Now, if you can't necessarily just like take a little trip and visit a sacred well, or perhaps you want to have something a little bit closer to home, there definitely are ways that you can incorporate this idea into your practice, especially if you have an outdoor area in your garden, maybe, you know, creating a pond that is kind of a safe haven for local wildlife, or if there is already a naturally existing pond, just making sure that you are taking care of it, making sure it's free of trash and pollutants, and that you know, the water is just well preserved and taken care of, keeping it safe, because, you know, natural resources are very important. And to me, being a practitioner of an earth-based spirituality, I think it is of the utmost importance to protect our beautiful, wonderful planet. So if you can conserve water, or maybe protect a body of water, a sacred spring of your own, I encourage you to do so. Thank you so much for joining me in my video today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!